That's right. For me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Snelling.
Present.
Ferris.
Here.
Behrens.
Here.
Keating.
Present.
Beichman.
Present.
Schrader.
Present.
Throm.
Here.
Baraki.
Present.
8-0, you have a quorum.
Thank you. First up, we have approval of minutes from the regular meeting of June 10th.
Move to approve regular minutes, June 10th, 2024 is written.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we need to add to the agenda an item. You have in front of you a quote from Agland Electric Motor Service in regards to lift station number 4 pump. Can we get that added as I'd like a motion to add that to business and discussion items number 16.
Move to add Agland Electric Motor Service quote to the business and discussion items number 16.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
8-0.
Thank you. All right, next up we have public comment. If you have anything you would like to address the council, you can come up and speak to a maximum of 5 minutes. Please give your name, address, ward, and what you're speaking about. Mandy?
As long as no one else was moving, I was going to come on up. Hello. So nice to see you all. Mandy Cook, Marysville Public Library Director. Greetings to the City Council, to Mr. Haverkamp, Mr. Westbrook, and to Mayor Fry. Glad to be here. What a Monday. Whew, it's been warm, but it's been wonderful. We are now starting our 4th week of our summer programs. We're excited to see great numbers. We love to see all ages come in the doors. So we're also excited to continue our discussion about having our end of summer programs at the pool. I just talked to Courtney Porter. We're going to get that finalized here hopefully real soon. Right now it sure seems like a good time to go jump in. So maybe you will come and jump in with us. We're also excited to continue presenting books in the permanent story walk display in the park. This month is a great book entitled "There's a Hole in the Log in the Bottom of the Lake," and if you sang that with me, then you need to go take some time and look at the story walk. Start on the south side of the park, walk on the west side, like on the west side of the pool, to read the story 2 pages at a time. And Miss Lisa does a fabulous job of putting interaction suggestions for both the caregivers and the parents and the kids or the council members to enjoy the story as they go with fun things to do along the way. We're excited to highlight first responders in July, looking forward to National Night Out in early August. Oh, he disappeared. I was giving the thumbs up to the chief and he disappeared. But we're going to be talking, the book is entitled First Responders and More Heroes in Action, and it's such a fun book. Then in August, we're going to have Duck on a Bike so we can celebrate our first ever Story Walk sponsor, the Gravel Dash. So we're really excited about that. And finally, in my letter, you noticed that we were the recipients of a DOC grant, which is Digital Opportunities to Connect Kansans, from the Department of Commerce. I specified it as $69,000. That is minus the in-kind and the personal donations that we have to do. So the grant was actually about $81,000, which is awesome. With this grant, we've purchased 12 laptops, and we're planning classes for both Marysville and the surrounding communities to offer both fundamental and advanced computer classes. Lynn Crott and Jerry Horton will be our trainers, so Blue Valley Technologies is one of our partners with the grant. And our other partner is the Marysville Chamber of Main Street. Wayne is in contact with Brian Ostrovsky, and he's the owner of Locable. And he is going to work with Marysville businesses to help boost their online presence. So with websites, with the digital content, all sorts of things, he's really going to work with them one-on-one to really help the businesses with whatever they need. So we can't wait to put this grant to work. So thank you very much for your support. Do you have questions for me, or do you want me to report on anything specific in the future? I forgot to show you my poster. This is the first draft. Don't look too close.
what kind of classes are gonna be, like typing classes or just everything?
That is a fantastic question, and my answer to that is twofold. Number one, the first couple of classes, we have talked about like working with Google Apps or how to search on the internet safely, how to download an image from the internet, pretty specific or pretty simple things like that. My answer is twofold because that's going to be the first couple of classes, but we don't know what the patrons are going to want yet. So we're really going to listen to patrons as we do these classes, figure out the curriculum as we go on. So that way if they say, we really want email, we really want Facebook, whatever they want is what we're going to put a class together for. Those are the fundamental classes. Jerry Horton from Blue Valley will do the advanced classes, and his are going to be more like internet safety or working with Microsoft Office, kind of that upper level of online work with that. So, but we have fewer classes with him, but he's going to do the same thing. If they really want specific things, we'll work that curriculum out.
Good deal. Thank you.
Okay? Anything else for me?
Ma'am.
Yeah?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
Thanks, Mandy. All right, would anyone else like to come forward under public comments?
Hello, my name's Sterling Clark, Ward 2. I'm just mentioning this because we got 4th of July coming up here. Shooting fireworks a little later maybe, just a thought. With like, my thought is like the Friday night and Saturday night of that week of shooting, bump it to 11 or something. For the fact that like tonight, nautical twilight is 9:30, which it really isn't dark. What I think is dark is the astronomical twilight, which is 10:15. So, and night's technically 11:02, and I'm not expecting any of this midnight stuff. And even mentioning to you guys, my other thought is even the 3rd being your midnight night over the 4th, because most people work the 5th. A lot of people are off the 4th, but I don't know if that upset people changing that or not, but that's just a mention. And this year's a kind of a funky year because the 5th falls on a Friday, so that would be in that Friday, Saturday, it's legal to shoot. Do you bump it to that? I'm also here for a second thing because I need to see what I need to meet with you guys about on the Alumni Association's wanting to bring back the cannons at the, like, what Cudney's used to do for football Fridays for touchdowns. And I'd be the one behind that, and we'd set up on the practice field. I've talked to the school district, and they were for it, like our superintendent Schrader was. He was going to mention it with the board, so I'm just doing the legwork right now. So I just need to hear from you guys what I need to do to move forward with that is all. Whether I got to do some more legwork or what I need, or if that's just something you guys approve, I don't know.
Well, I suppose first discussion would be on the fireworks times. What is the council's opinions? I agreed. 4th being on Thursday makes it a little odd, Friday being the 5th. We've sort of tweaked this differently over the years, kind of depending on where the 4th fell. I know we're getting in pretty close as far as making changes. There'd still be time to get it published, I imagine, if we've made the decision tonight, but we'd pretty much have to make the decision
We'll have
tonight.
to change the story because she's already written the story.
Is it already
on
written? Okay.
But we can try.
And what's the legal limit now?
10 to 10,
10 to
10 in the
10.
morning till 10 at night, except for on the 4th of July, which is
asking for what,
10 till
another hour?
midnight. on
I
the
was
4th.
just asking for the Friday and Saturday nights of,
Till 11?
For Saturday
Till-
too? Because they can't even sell fireworks on Saturday anymore.
I'm saying of legal shooting time.
Okay.
So it'd be that,
So extend it until
it'd be the
6th.
28th, 29th this year,
Oh.
and the 5th. Those are your only 3 dates that would be affected.
And until what time?
Till 11,
Until 11.
not even till midnight, like, just gives that extra time for anyone that spends their money on nighttime stuff. Because even when I do fireworks shows, I still meet that legal time of 10, if it's during that time spell, so. And it's doable, but it's just not as effective, not as pretty, it's just,
Yeah.
that's all.
I mean, I don't see another hour being an issue. I mean, he has a valid point. If it's not really dark, you spend a bunch of money on nighttime fireworks, you're gonna wanna see the full potential of them, and they're only getting more expensive. I mean, another hour to me, I don't think is too much of a burden on anybody, especially if it's on, like, you know, he's only asking for Friday and Saturday, you know, on a weekend where people typically don't work.
Well, they can't shoot on Saturday, I don't think, right?
The Saturday, he's talking about the Saturday before.
Saturday
Yeah.
before.
Because
20.
they can start selling them on the
27th.
27th, which is Thursday, this Thursday.
So you want them to extend the hours on the 28th and 29th of
And-
June?
Yeah.
And
then-
on the
and
5th
you
of
don't
July?
You don't have to do the 5th. That was just, like I said, this year's a muddy year with the
Yeah.
5th falling.
To me, the
'Cause-
5th almost makes more sense.
It does,
So-
it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big ask.
I'll make a motion
Yeah,
that we can
yeah.
shoot fireworks on July 5th until 11 PM,
Just the 5th,
just the 5th.
okay?
Because the 4th is already till what time?
Midnight
Midnight.
Midnight.
Okay.
The 4th,
is midnight, in
Thursday,
the code. It's always been.
Okay. Been a motion, is there a second?
Is there a reason you don't wanna have the 28th and 29th?
If you want to add the 28th and 29th, whatever.
Okay. You wanna amend the
I just feel
motion?
like that's like this week,
Yeah,
It
it
is.
is, which is kind of,
right?
which is really kind of,
it's this Friday and Saturday.
yeah.
But we'll just make, we'll be able to get that out, or,
Yeah, we'll be able to get it in the paper for Wednesday.
so you wanna amend it 28th, 29th?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to extend the hours the 28th, the 29th, and the 5th till 11 o'clock. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are we good to go on the 13th? Since
Yes,
that's a
'cause that's
city
a
event?
city event.
Okay, all right, that's
Different
just my only.
All those opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And now the cannon.
And now the cannon.
He's asking what, if there's anything he needs to do to get that.
I just need to know the
It's a
legwork
noise
I need to do.
ordinance.
approved.
Gudney shot it up there for
I
years.
know, and everybody just left it alone.
I was gonna say, when did that end?
Yeah, I
Do you know?
didn't think it ever ended.
Well, when he got to the point, you're talking about a cannon?
Yeah, it's just.
He
a-
got to the
it's
point
a
they were
black
just
powder
using
cannon.
like, maybe not quarter sticks of dynamite, but they were.
Ladies.
They were using sticks.
The mortar shells, like just the sound. Yeah.
What we would set up would actually be black powder cannons, nothing aerial. It's just a sound.
Just a
No
boom.
projectiles, no nothing.
And it would be on city property, or I mean, on
It'd-
school
It'd be on
property?
school property, it'd be on their practice field they said I could set up on.
That's where I wondered.
And that's
Yeah.
just for Fridays?
But
It'd
isn't
only
the
be-
sound ordinance till 10 anyway?
Excuse me?
Isn't the sound ordinance till 10 PM?
I'd have to look at code, I don't remember anymore.
So Sterling,
Yeah,
at some point, the National Guard did it
Right.
for a little while.
yep. And then I think they might, because I talked to Schrader about that. I said, are they still gonna do that? And he thinks so. So then if they, those times they do that, we'd step back and not. Our plan is to get like local businesses that wanna sponsor it, and it's not during the national anthem, and once, playoffs roll around, we can't do them either, because K-Shaw doesn't allow it, so. It'd be, I think, 4 home games this year.
And if it's on the school's property, then their insurance and
Yeah,
all
right.
that's
In my
taken care
own,
of, and
yours,
yours.
we'd have our own liability insurance too to cover it all.
So we just have to amend the ordinance then? Is that what we have to do, or? make an
I really think it's 10 o'clock anyway, and
I
there's
don't-
not very many high school football games that go past 10
I was
o'clock.
gonna say, most of them
right.
are 9:30.
We can work on this without making a decision on this
Yes, yeah.
tonight. We've
Let's-
got
let
some
us look at
time
the-
until football
This
season.
is just me getting the leg rolling is all with you guys, just putting it in your heads. So you don't have to make a decision tonight on that, so.
Let's figure out first if we need to change anything. If not, we can.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can put the city attorney to it. Got it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sterling.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who would like to come forward for public comment? Okay, moving on to business and discussion items. First up, we have the pickleball tournament tennis courts request. I don't believe he's here. The ask is that the Marysville junior and senior high tennis programs would put on a fundraiser pickleball tournament to offset some of the costs associated with those teams. They want to have it at the tennis courts in City Park. I don't know, I think we've had camps and things there before, but I don't think we've ever had a specific ask for a fundraiser. But it's kind of six of one, half dozen of the other, maybe.
Move to approve request.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okey-doke.
Thank you. Next up, we have the selling of T-shirts by the Aquatic Center Volunteers. Got some people here to speak on that.
Nothing major, just wanted to make sure it's okay to sell them on property and advertise them on property and use the Marysville Aquatic Center's name. Something similar to this. Not saying exactly like this, but just kind of like this.
He's also in the pool.
Did you get copyright permission from Krusty and SpongeBob?
So just permission that we can sell them.
Move to approve the request. Second.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good to go.
More Mr. Krabs?
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, he just walked in.
Mr. Smith, you just walk in. You don't really have to speak about anything. We already approved your request, but we thought we'd better let you know.
No, okay, well, like I said, didn't mean to be late there, but just
Oh,
wanted
that's all right.
to come forward, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Any
Nope,
questions?
you're good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Don't be late next time.
All right, next up, we have the Marysville Minute Agreement.
Yeah, so this agreement is just a contract between Tommy McNish and the city of Marysville for the next 5 months from August 1 to December 31st, just to produce more of the Marysville Minute videos. He has agreed for $400 per month for those 5 months, and then that all the work performed would be the property of the city. He's already agreed to the terms, just need council to approve the contract.
Move to approve the contract with Tommy McNish.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Where are the videos gonna be shown at?
A lot of times they're on the convention and tourism pages or the main, or the Chamber of Commerce, or
It just
Chamber Main
extends
Street.
what he does now
Yeah.
till December.
He's doing, the latest one was downtown at the, or the old museum up there.
Friday
Yeah.
things, yeah.
Friday, yeah.
You get a
I
lot,
think
a lot of people
that was
ask
a
about 'em.
separate contract, the
Is that a separate
Fridays, I
contract?
believe.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think that's the other
Oh.
one. That
It's the other one that was
additional
just approved not that long ago.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's good. A lot of good publicity. All right, next we have the
the funding for that contract.
funding for that contract.
Move to approve the funding out of convention and tourism for $2,000.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have the steam locomotive discussion from the Kansas Steam Heritage Association. Is there a Trey Shaw?
Okay, I don't believe he's here again. So after seeing the meeting, on the 10th, he sent an email to the city, just for the council to reconsider it again. So he stated that, you know, why would 460 leaving Marysville be the most practical option? Currently, there are no railroad lines available for reactivation in the Marysville area, as most of the remaining rail is still actively used. So 460 would not be able to steam again in the region without a railroad to run on. They're currently in talks with Ottawa Northern, formerly the Midland Railway, now currently owned by the Rock Island Railroad, which would provide storage, trackage, and restored passenger equipment to use behind 460. And there are currently 0 efforts to maintain the 460 at its current location in Marysville. So moving it to Ottawa would introduce more willing volunteers, both young and old, that would have interest in maintaining and operating the locomotive. He has also said that they plan on paying for the move, the storage, and restoration of it, and he has mentioned some concessions that they're willing to consider. He says that they could possibly be willing to name the locomotive after its hometown, Marysville, to pay respects to its heritage, or possibly even go as far as to have the locomotive visit the town every few years. So that is the basics of his request.
I know there's been a lot of discussion online about this issue, and opinions have been very diverse. This is definitely, I would say there's no uniform opinion in the community on this locomotive. Everything from scrap it to, you know, fix it up, spend the money, whatever it takes. So everything in between. It's good to know that there's different groups with interest in it, and that it's languished for quite a while where it's at. So you have some comments?
I just was talking to somebody about it, and they indicated this group was trying to get the one in Salina also, which is in a lot better shape. So they kind of wondered if maybe they didn't want this one for parts.
If I'm remembering correctly, they tried to get the one in Salina, but the town of Salina decided against it.
Okay.
But he said that they have the only track available to run, but isn't there something in here saying from
They say they have the funding to build the track in order to move it.
No, but I thought he said in his email they have the track to run it on and.
Yeah,
They
the
do.
track
At
from
that
Ottawa
location,
to Baldwin
yeah.
At the
City
Ottawa,
through
right.
there.
That's a big.
I thought he was saying there was no other track in our area, and there's another paper here saying that they have the track.
He was saying that most of the track in our area is currently actively used.
It's either actively used or can't necessarily handle the weight and a full-size equipment running. Locomotives are hard on track. Steam locomotives are harder than diesel locomotives are, so, yeah.
Yeah, I just had read that previously, so I just wanted that distinction to be made.
You know, we haven't heard from the local group.
Yeah. I would like to hear.
They're here.
I think we should hear from them. I personally, before I hear from them, I'm inclined to just table this whole
Well, I think we should
movement,
definitely
so-
hear from them. And
Yeah,
keep the
but we need to listen
conversation.
to them.
Yeah. So going to number 6 on business and discussion, the Marshall County Railroad Historical Society. I see Charlie Weichert and crew here, so whomever would like to come forward, that would be great.
We'll just back him up.
Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me and listening to me. I first came to town about 50 years ago, and I found Union Pacific was pretty instrumental in our town when I come to the crossing on 77 highway, and it's blocked with a railroad train. I don't really have a formal presentation other than our letter of request that it not leave Marshall County because we have an operating Railroad Historical Society, and we've been in business for about 25 years, and there's a lot of railroad enthusiasts amongst us. I want to invite all of you to join our Marshall County Railroad Historical Society and find out what railroad history we have between Blue Rapids and Waterville. The railroad between Blue Rapids and Waterville was authorized by Congress in Washington, D.C. before the railroad was authorized in Marysville. In 1865, we were one of 5 railroads authorized to be built in the state of Kansas. And as such, Union Pacific did buy out the people that started the railroad and built the railroad, arriving in Waterville about 1867. My concern is we have members from Arizona, Missouri, Colorado, California, Washington, and principally Kansas. There are about 5 organizations that are railroad oriented in our county. I've heard of the UP Junior Old Timers. I think there is another professional society associated with the Union Pacific Railroad. We have the Frankfurt subdivision of model railroader enthusiasts. We have the Marysville Union Pacific Depot Preservation Society interested in railroad history. Our Marshall County Railroad Historical Society, of course, is maintaining about 12 miles of track from 12th Road to Washington County line. I think the educational value of this old steam engine, weighing about 81 tons, the tender will weigh 58 tons, is going to be impractical to run on the rail down Blue Rapids to Waterville, but it can sit there and rust down just as well as it can sit right where it is and rust down. I don't want it to do that. I want to use it as an educational tool, and I think our society does. Here's the only educational information displayed on the side of that locomotive down there. It's a plaque of the Marysville Short Line Railroad, sitting it there for education of our general public. And if it had more signage, it can sit right there and continue to be right across the street from the main education center of our community. That's why, whether we move it or leave it there or go somewhere else, Lillis or Bremen, I don't care. But I would like to have it considered as staying in Marshall County, and our Marshall County Railroad Historical Society would entertain how we're going to get the thing moved if we have to move it. And that's where, does this city have a long-range plan for what you're going to do with the assets we have of artifacts like this? I don't know. And that's essentially what I'm here to say. Our letter says, please don't let it leave Marshall County. Can we work together to make it a valuable educational tool here in town, whether it's parked there or at the old depot or somewhere else in Waterville? I think it'd look pretty nice by the Opera House, hooked up to that caboose. And we have the possibility of the Onega Railroad Club giving us a boxcar. That's erroneous statement on my part. I'm an assumption, but we've got to keep that particular locomotive, which was so instrumental in Marshall County history. That was the main locomotive running Marysville to Irving and so forth before the days of Tuttle Creek. Please keep it in town, in our county somehow. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie. Well, we do have the survey results from, I mean, this isn't necessarily the most scientific survey because it's Facebook users and people who saw it, but just as a little bit more background to the conversation.
Yeah, so about 390 people responded to the survey online. On question 3, it was how important is the steam locomotive to the cultural heritage of Marysville? About 42% said extremely important. On very important, 23.6 said that. And then somewhat important was 16.2. On not so important or not at all important, it added up to about 16.7%.
How much?
16.7. Let's see. On question 5, how likely do you agree with the statement the steam locomotive should remain in Marysville City Park? 388 of those 390 answered it, and 42.5% strongly agreed, 14.95 agree, and then disagree and strongly disagree. It was about 22.6%. on, if they move the steam locomotive, I feel it should remain in Marshall County. That was about 48%, and then it can be moved to a location outside of Marshall County. 15.4% said that. No opinion was 7.7, and then 28.5 said other, and I don't have what they specified. So those are just a few of the answers to this. I'll share it with Chris and then with all the council members after.
As previously discussed, we don't need to make any big decision on this. I mean, I think it's good we're discussing the locomotive at all, since I've been on council for a long time and it's never come up really, other than a little bit of conversation about possibly moving it to the depot. So trying to come up with some sort of plan, some sort of, discussion to do something productive with it, make better use of it, I think is good, but we don't need to make any decision right away.
I'm just, how do I say this? If we keep it where it's at and nothing is done to it, we're doing a disservice to the locomotive. Because I don't foresee the city of Marysville ever fixing it or doing anything more to it. And I know there was talk when they were building the tennis courts of moving it to put more tennis courts there. And so I'm torn. I mean, obviously, to do anything with it, to move it, it's going to be a lot of money. To restore it's going to be a lot of money.
And I know a lot of people remember when it was open. I don't remember that locomotive. I remember when other park locomotives you could climb on when I was a kid, but unfortunately with liability and otherwise, we just can't quite do that the way we used to.
We always played on it.
I know.
When I was little. Yeah.
Charlie?
I think there are Union Pacific grants and funds for not necessarily restoring it, but making it cosmetically better. That little piece of rust on the side of it, I can cover it up with a piece of pop rivet aluminum and paint it black, and it'll look a lot pretty. It needs some signage of why it is so important and why it's here. And that's my point. I want each of you to join the Marshall County Railroad Historical Society, and let's keep railroading going in our town.
Can we send this to the Parks and Rec Committee?
Sure.
And maybe liaise with these groups that are...
I imagine.
or enter into further discussion with them in order to get a better idea of like, hey, what they would like to see done, like what we can potentially bring to the table.
Right, keep the conversation
I want to
going.
keep this going. And, I'm not from here, but at the same time, I respect history and especially, something that built this community. I think it's very important that we should at least engage with these groups to figure out what they have as far as a long-term goal. So,
Fran, are you speaking on behalf of the Union Pacific Depot Preservation Society?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Since it's germane to the conversation.
Okay, I hadn't planned on this. So, anyway, I was here last week when we had our conversation, and Mr. Schrader, I thought, had a wonderful idea in saying, that we need to check with the community and just get their feelings. But I feel like the survey that was put out was really a little bit soon, because it didn't contain that. It was just like very black and white. Do you want to keep it, or do you want to get rid of it? But it wasn't keep it as is, and watch it deteriorate where it is, or have someone come in that would have the means to redo it. And I guess my dad probably fired or was an engineer on that, so it's very close to my heart. But I'm thinking that if we don't have a plan of the city completely redoing it, that we're really taking it away from having it completely restored and, taken down there, restored where it'll be used, and other generations will absolutely get the good out of it, rather than it sitting here. And also the taxpayer money that, possibly would go into restoring it. But we really can't take it at the depot. We just don't have the money. We would like to, of course, it just seems like it should be there, but we just can't do that. So I do hope that people, and Charlene, you had a good point there. I do think that people really need to, the voters, need to have a sense of exactly what we're talking about and what the city's talking about. Are you going to pour the hundreds of thousands into it and make it, it would be wonderful. But it's not the same train or engine that kids were climbing all over years ago. It's just not. And so, anyway, that's my little thing. And Charlie, I am sorry to, kind of rain on your parade.
Signage on it to tell what it is, why it's there.
Well,
Education is why it's there.
I do think this is something we can send to the Parks and Rec to kind of hash out, maybe find those nuances, kind of keep that conversation going with the requisite groups in the community and kind of build a plan moving forward. I would agree in the sense that I don't think there were a lot of people who said do absolutely nothing. It's perfect the way it is. I don't think that wasn't an option in the survey because nobody would have chosen it. I think everybody wants to see something done, but it has to be something that makes sense, respecting the history of the community, of the locomotive, of the people who worked hard to get it there in the first place, but also trying to make something productive out of it for the next generation. So if the Parks and Rec committee, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and with that, Mr. Haberkamp, if you could reach out to this other group and just let them know that this is a delicate issue for our community and that we, need a little bit more time to, and we're not disrespecting them or blowing them off at all, but I think that you should kind of outline to them like what this means to our community and that we're still considering it. So, but yeah, I would like to see it taken to Parks and Rec if we can.
Okay.
Anybody else have thoughts on that?
I see everybody's point on it. I mean, I'm not from here, but just seeing it the past couple decades I've lived here, I can see what a staple it is to this community. That's why I brought up getting it out there, because I know it's important to everybody. But I also see everybody else's viewpoint about fixing it up, even if it has to move away. It's not rusting to the ground and becoming nothing. It's going to become a future staple for many, many, many more generations to learn about the railroad, where it came from, how it was, what it brought. I mean, the options are unlimited. And so to me, I'm torn as well. I couldn't make a decision right now if I had to. I mean, I couldn't. The nuances of this are just too great, and I think further discussion is definitely needed. But I agree with Kyle, just let them know we're not, brushing them off, but this is something that's very, obviously, very important to the community, and I think we need more conversation, more information, so that we can make the right decision for it.
And this is not an A or B option.
No,
as much as
no.
it somewhat looks like that on the surface. There's a lot of different ways this can go, and at least we can work on it.
Personally, I would be ecstatic seeing it running someplace. But it's never going to happen here. I mean, not unless you raise.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll send that to committee and then can bring back whatever discussions are on that from there. That'd be great. Okay, moving on to line item number 7 under business and discussion, traffic control devices. Matt.
Hi, good evening. I just want you to know before we start, Charlie's on my side, so that was a passionate speech, and so he's here to back me up. Yeah. On June 18th last week, the Police and Fire Committee met, and so I'm here to speak on behalf of the Police and Fire Committee. I'll do my best to answer any questions, as well as the Police and Fire Committee is obviously here tonight as well. One of the things that we were tasked with was looking at intersections that may be slightly more safer or even much more safer with the implementation of a stop sign, a yield sign, or some type of traffic control device. The first intersection that came to mind was the one that was brought to the council by one of our citizens, and that was 13th and Carolina. I prepared a report. Would you guys like me to go through each one separately or just answer any general questions?
I'd say go through each.
Each intersection?
Yeah, I think they're each unique cases.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I agree.
Perfect. First one that we discussed was 13th and Carolina. The consensus of the Police and Fire Committee was to add stop signs on 13th Street. The reason to do that was because of the large upward hill and it being very difficult to see northbound and southbound traffic. Additionally, due to the incline of that hill, if you come to a complete stop to check for traffic, it can be very difficult to accelerate safely in a manner that still allows you to view oncoming traffic from both directions. And so that was a citizen concern and one that was addressed by the Police and Fire Committee. And that recommendation was to add stop signs on 13th Street.
I know I was gonna say, we can vote or not vote on all these separately. I'd say that this is something that's been sort of discussed, and Kevin, you had to say too, a lot over the years, a lot of different intersections, whether it's better to have more controlled or less controlled intersections. I know there's been some council members we've served with who were very ardent that we have too many yield and stop signs in this town. So every time I see this, I think about some of those council members. But I think if we kind of look at these each as an individual case, it might make sense. We have more traffic, I'd say, in town than people appreciate in some of these intersections. I mean, I don't have traffic count data, but especially during the school year, you'd be surprised what some of these intersections, the traffic numbers they turn. So
there's quite a bit, and generally speaking, just so the community knows it's Washington home, in 2024 to date, we've had 43 traffic accidents within the city. And in 2023 year, we had 103. So that's 103 traffic accidents in one calendar year.
yeah.
And I know that intersection up there at 13th and Carolina, like she even said when she was here, you just can't see over the hill till you get to it. And, you know, the kids coming across the street from St. Gregory's and, you know, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I understood that, you know, the ask about making it a one-way. I'm a little loath to make more one-way streets. Sure. I think it's rough to live on a one-way street. And I think making that a four-way stop would be difficult. If you come up from the west, I mean, if you're driving a stick shift or something, you better be pretty good at it.
Correct.
Because it's very steep.
We discussed each of those options.
Right, we did. And
Well, that's my point, is the committee, what's the recommendation of the committee?
I think the recommendation of the committee is outlined here. Is
Right.
Go ahead and, you know.
put stop signs on
signs
13th.
on the 13th.
Street. Because we discussed one way, and when you're going to church and you have elderly people that don't pay attention, I think you'd be causing more issues then than the stop signs on 13th Street.
Okay, well, the committee's recommendation is to add stop signs on 13th Street, so.
I would like to add, we did have one staff comment about this. Gary, our street supervisor, did not like the idea of having a stop sign here just because whenever he's running the snow plow, it's very hard to stop in that location going up 13th Street. So that's just one thing to consider. I believe
Either
it.
way, he's saying, either going down or coming up, they can't control the plow.
Going
Up or
down Carolina or up Carolina?
13th Street to Brick Street.
Oh.
Too slick.
That does make sense.
Just specifically with the snow plow, that's when it gets hard to stop, but.
What's the council's wish?
I think it's in a school district.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Proximity to the school,
Something needs to be done there.
Yeah.
I mean, one, how many months period of snow plow, I mean, how much snow we had the past couple of years?
Not as much.
Not as much.
And
So,
they're not
I mean,
gonna be
I
going
see
up
his point, I
that
hate to
street.
make his job harder,
Right.
but, you know, snow plows have all them flashing lights for a reason. I think, you know, maybe if we need to add more lights on the snow plow or something to make it visible, but.
Hopefully he doesn't get ticketed for rolling a stop sign with a
Hey.
snowplow.
Depends how many tickets we've issued that month.
I think it's needed there, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a sign, you know, driving a bus up there, it needs to be there, so.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the stop signs on 13th Street. in Carolina.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor,
This
say aye.
would be just north and
Aye.
south, right?
North
Yes,
and
north-south on 13th only. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
The second intersection that was discussed was 14th and Broadway. The reason that was discussed is because it's one block off of a major US highway, Highway 36. We know that 14th and the highway is controlled by a traffic light. Drivers turning southbound on 14th have a very limited window to yield to the right-of-way. Cars heading east on Broadway. And so we could make that a little bit safer by adding stop signs on Broadway so that turning traffic off the highway did not have to immediately come to a stop within 150 feet. Also going down a slight decline of a hill as well. That's also one of the points we discussed about was that's the end of the business district per se. And so we felt that by putting a stop sign there at the end of the business district, it made it the safest route to go into the business district. So those were the points that were discussed among the police and fire committee.
It was more consistent to have the stop signs on Broadway as opposed to that.
Right.
It was just consistency. You know,
Right.
it's easier to get used to coming off the highway and then come to a stop right away. Just didn't make much sense. And I have to say, these weren't just, you know, pulled out of a bucket. I mean, Chief Simpson did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, put in a lot of legwork and thought into, what intersections needed to be dealt with. And I just want that to be.
No, and I was able to drive these today while my son was napping. And I mean, I think what Jeff was maybe trying to get to is if these are all the recommendations, I'm inclined to move to approve all of them, if that's the case. And now unless.
I just feel like they're such standalone, and I say this as somebody who used to drive, I've driven thousands of miles delivering pizza around this town and otherwise. Each one I feel like is kind of a unique situation, so that's why I thought they bear discussion. I mean, we don't remove stop signs very often around here, we only put them in, so I wanted to make sure we discussed each one before we put it in. It didn't just get swept in.
No, I mean,
Even if it takes more time.
And I drove them too, and they are all.
There's a case, and this specific one, it feels like there should be a stop sign there. If you're going east on Broadway, it feels like there should be one there, so it does make sense to me as well.
Oh, were you done, Chief?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the stop signs on Broadway, or 14th and Broadway, on the Broadway side.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. The third intersection that was discussed was 4th and Broadway. The reason 4th and Broadway has been discussed was due to recent accidents as well as close calls. It is in between two city shops, a bank, a very busy gas station. That's also the other side coming from the west, the beginning of our business district. With the increased number of trucks getting gas there along with city trucks, it was a police and fire committee recommendation to add stop signs on Broadway consistent with the intersection that you just approved, 14th and Broadway, to do the same on 4th and Broadway.
On this one, just my opinion, obviously I'm not, the decider here, but this almost seems like it could bear a four-way stop because if traffic does come from the south there, pretty fast and furious at times, and it doesn't have a slope from the highway side like the 14th Street does. So that was my only real comment on this one.
We actually discussed this.
Did you?
at the
Okay.
Police and Fire Committee, and I have to say that the biggest reason for not having a four-way stop is because most of the traffic coming off of the highway there are tractor trailers and stuff.
You got
So if you
limited
put a
room.
stop sign there,
be
nobody else
blocked.
can get into that
That makes
part.
sense.
Got limited room.
So we put a lot of thought into it. And that's
Okay.
the only reason we didn't go for a four-way
That's
stop.
legitimate, yeah. Okay.
Move to approve the stop signs on Broadway, 4th and Broadway on the Broadway side.
This would be for east and west traffic.
East and west.
Yeah.
Okay, so a motion on the table?
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to present the next two together, and please feel free to vote independently, but because they directly correlate to each other. One of the things that we discussed was ensuring that our city parks are safe. And one of the parks that we feel could be improved was Dargett's Park. If you go by there anytime, day or night, you're going to see kids playing either baseball practice or daycares out there. So there's never been a time that I've driven by and not seen somebody at Dargett's Park. But yet there's not a real real safe way to get there. So there's not a single crosswalk that will take you to that park or a stop sign that borders Dargett's Park. And so the recommendation would be to add crosswalks so that people could access our city-owned park from the east and the west, and to implement four-way stops at 15th and Laramie and 14th and Calhoun. And we believe that that's necessary to ensure citizen safety and youth safety as they frequent and visit our city-owned park.
What thoughts do people
This
have
one
on
we
this?
talked about for
I
a
imagine.
while, because trying to come up with because obviously we don't want to put burden on anybody driving either. But, we discussed a lot of that, how much burden is this putting on the citizens having to stop and things. But like Chief said, there's daycares, homeschool co-ops meet there. I mean, it's always busy.
Yeah.
No crosswalks, no stop signs. We definitely need a safe way for those kids and families to get there and be safe.
And it'll slow the people on 15th Street down.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And that's why
15th Street is our most frequent complaint for speeding.
Yeah.
15th
Because it's
Street.
not as rough as 12th Street.
That's what I said too, exactly. But we did 14th because that eliminates them speeding down 14th Street and gives another way to cross to get there.
I think the crosswalks are,
Good
hard to
idea.
argue
Oh,
with
yeah.
at all. That's a fantastic idea. The only concern I had was, is 15th considered kind of a secondary route to the hospital?
It is.
And, it's an emergency route, then it leaves basically what, 12th, 20th, and 8th Streets is the only north-south streets without any,
But emergency vehicles are gonna be able to bypass that four-way as long as they can do so safely.
okay,
So,
They have blue lights and sirens, so that helps.
yeah.
And Chief, I don't know, maybe you can answer this, because I'm not, if there's just a person with no lights and sirens and they have an emergency and need to take that route, if they have their hazards on, are they
not legally, no.
not legally? Okay.
No, sir.
Were any of the locals around these stop sign areas around Dargett's, have they been consulted at all? Do you know
I
if
have
they
not
were
talked to
involved?
anybody other than I reached out to the school district and asked them to reach out to all their bus drivers for recommendations.
I know sometimes people like the idea of stop signs slowing down, but then they have to deal with loud vehicle noise, slowing down, speeding up. There's a trade-off there.
There
so-
definitely is a trade-off and absolutely, so I'm thankful I don't have to make the decision.
Protect the kids.
Yeah, this, in my mind, was the lesser of all the evils. Honestly, I didn't even realize, I've driven that thing a million times and no crosswalk never even
Yeah.
crossed my mind. I think we need it. I think it's a necessary thing.
Yeah.
Move to approve the request, the recommendation, rather, for 15th and Laramie.
Second.
14th and Calhoun.
Oh, yeah, I'll throw that in there too, and 14th and Calhoun. Since he presented them together, I'll.
You're amending your second?
Second.
All right, second is amended. Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Question, please, what's the implementation window?
It'll take a little while.
Usually it's as soon as they get the signs in. It takes, what, a couple weeks maybe?
Yeah, I'll check
Actually,
in
we
with
have to write a
Carrie and-
resolution.
You have to
You have to write a
resolution
resolution first.
Yeah.
It'll be the next meeting before we can do that.
So that's before we could even order the signage for it?
No, we can order it. You guys already agreed to
Yeah.
that. We just have to pass that
We'll
resolution.
use it somewhere else if we didn't, so, yeah.
Again, I just want to say thanks to Chief Simpson for putting in all the work to make this happen. He really did a lot of work. I'm glad it was him and not me.
While you're at the dais, and speaking of traffic control.
Yes, sir.
The radar trailer,
Yes, sir.
is it in functioning order or is it still
So
needing
the
some
radar
work?
trailer, the solar panels are out, and
Yeah.
so what we can do is we can put it in a location in which it has to be plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
We've worked with Evergy, and Evergy has been great to work with, absolutely phenomenal. If we create a regulator, I'm not an electrician, please forgive me if I misspeak. If we create an electronic regulator box, they will allow us, since it's a public safety issue, and they would actually hook that up to any pole in the city that has an appropriate amount of power that would allow us to run that speed radar trailer. So if we had a situation like 15th Street, if we have that regulator capability, then they will put that up for us and move it throughout the city.
Great.
They're not willing to do that for just anybody. We had to beg and plead since it was a public safety issue.
That's great. I know people really like seeing it out.
Yep.
People feel like it does have an effect when it shows up, so.
Yep, and I believe Will Ralph is working on the regulator piece.
Great.
So we are trying to get it back out. Otherwise, really, the only place we can put it now is on Broadway or in front of our office, somewhere where there's a constant flow.
And nobody cares if speed in front of the PD anyway, right?
There's not a lot, so, but
All right.
we are trying to get it back operational and back out there.
He has another request. He's got the next request.
Oh, yeah, okay. Tasers. Taser 10 certification request.
Yeah, as well, the Police and Fire Committee met last week as well. The reason that we met was to discuss all available less lethal platforms and options for use within the Marysville Police Department. We wanted to talk about what each one of their capabilities is, what they're intended to do, and what their uses are. Currently, we carry the Taser X26P. It was released by Taser in 2013. In 2018, Taser released a Taser 7, and in 2023, Taser released a Taser 10. They are no longer servicing. Even if we pay for it, they will not service our Tasers. We've had one quit, and we sent it in, and they refused to service it because it's past that 10-year window. So we met with the Police and Fire Committee. We demoed a Taser 10. And what we're asking for tonight is to enter into a 10-year agreement with Taser that would do a couple things. One, it would get us new Tasers now at the beginning of the year. And two, it would automatically lock us in for year 6 for brand new Tasers at the price of right now. So if you lock into a 10-year contract, so to speak, then you don't have to pay for inflation. Also, the certification program is different. So typically we buy a Taser, and then we have to buy the training cartridges, the live fire cartridges, send somebody to Taser instructor school, buy any kind of Taser. All those are independent costs. And so Taser put this into one platform called a certification program. And so it carries the Tasers, the batteries, the holster, the docking station, the target. They have a complete suit so we can do live fire on an actual person for training purposes in a safe manner. Unlimited duty cartridges, annual certification cartridges, unlimited instructor training vouchers, a 10-year warranty, and an on-site instructor course here in Marysville for rollout. So you're taking every individual expense that we've had and putting it into one price and guaranteed on a 10-year warranty. The Police and Fire Committee felt due to the inflation and the cost of things that it was better to enter into a 10-year contract. I did not get it in the pamphlet because I just got it today, but the exact figure is a one-time $1,500 fee to get the process started, and then $9,525.16 per year. So I am requesting your approval to enter into an agreement with Taser for 10 years.
Okay. Well, I'd agree with inflation and otherwise. The predictability alone has value as well. So that's the committee's recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the chief's request for the 10-year contract on the new Tasers.
A second?
Okay, it's moved in second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Chris actually shot the old one.
All the puns.
She's a heck of a shot,
Wasn't fun.
Okay, next up we have the Kester House Foundation proposal. Here to speak on that maybe is Gloria Smith. And maybe Sharon as well. I don't know.
Has everybody seen the proposal? Did the council get copies?
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't gotten a single question this week, so it's made me very nervous. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions.
Well, I'll kick it off and say that I like the idea of the proposal, but we're in a weird timing situation. I wish I'd seen this proposal maybe a month ago. Unfortunately, I know that's.
We wish we had known
Yeah.
that we were going to be divested a month ago, so,
Sure.
or, so a little sooner.
I mean, we're kind of in a space where since we're already advertising, it feels like we need to maybe my opinion, proceed on the path we're on with this as an option maybe within that path. I think it does make sense for this to be something for us to consider.
Well, that was one of the things I tried to cover in the proposal, because obviously that's a glitch, because we didn't get in here with this in a timely manner so that you could consider it. Because at the very least, we would like to be part of the process of selecting someone. The grant that was from the Kester family, you know, the gift in itself, it really clearly favors the museum, you know, taking over the balance of the property. But again, that's awkward, you know, right now because of the timing. And we really need you to at least provisionally say we will get this gift so that we can apply for this $100,000 grant. And so if we can, I've talked to our attorney, Terry Blazer, who's representing the foundation in this, to see if there isn't a way that if we do not legally transfer the property to the foundation until after the selection of the operator has been made or that kind of thing. And he tells me that he can work that out with the city attorney. So if we can get you to provisionally approve our being given this gift, that would be a great thing, because then we could work around the legalities of the proffer that you've already solicited for. So.
Well, it's a tough situation. I'm of the inclination where I don't know that we can do that, unfortunately, because of the situation where we're in. I think that can be on the table as an option, maybe even the best option, but we've got to let the RFP process play out and then have that conversation. I understand why that's not optimal for the funding purposes, but I feel like otherwise we're kind of reneging on the, you know, what we've already put forth, and it puts us in a difficult position where if we have future RFPs or future projects where we get started and then we reel them back in really quickly, then people feel like maybe we aren't operating in good faith.
Of course, of
But-
course.
but
That's
do-
what has to be a
Can we cancel the RFP?
Yes, the council does have the ability to cut the timeline short after, you know, a submission or at any time that they choose. That was in one of the last pages of the RFP that was accepted by council.
Right. I've said this a lot of times in a lot of ways, we can do a lot of things, but now whether or not we feel like that's a good look or good practice, that's a different question. But that's a council question, so I don't know, what are some of the council members' thoughts on this request?
I'm inclined to agree with you that we let the RFPs play out the way they should. I'm not sure that this is not a bad idea, but until we have the whole picture, I don't know what the best answer is.
You're not concerned at all about the conditions of the gift, the original gift from the Kester family? You know, naturally, they, you know, are very in favor of our being granted the property. And I don't know if, you know, there's somebody who takes the house. Is that what you're concerned about primarily?
Yes, that's the subject of the RFP, is the house, the restaurant house.
Yeah, okay.
Call it.
And so you're concerned that if you don't let all of the RFPs play out, and if you get one that you think is good, that the city should be able to grant that house to the buyer?
Is possible, yes. Basically, my position would be that we're trying to keep all options open and all avenues for choices open at this point. I don't make that, take that lightly, and I don't make that decision unilaterally. It's not my decision to make, but I personally believe we need to let this play out and then have that conversation. And that's why we do the RFP in such a way where we can reject any and all, we can do absolutely nothing, or we can do something that's not even subject, like, we can choose something outside of the RFP process, but this process gives us that palette of options to choose from.
Well, I'm sure you can appreciate that our concern is we don't want to be a bidding war from some third party
Right.
who comes in and says, we've got a lot of money, we want to put a,
Casino?
Yeah, casino. That did get mentioned, actually.
Oh, for
It's called, but is there anything that we
I think it
could,
was a casino.
that we could guarantee would be successful, and everybody said casino.
Well,
So-
no, and I honestly don't think, and I don't think we want to go just to the highest bidder. If it was purely that, we would have sealed bids and we'd just go, but we want it to be thoughtful and considerate. And I think this might be the best path. Because we're where we're at in the process, I don't know that we should change tax at the moment. But I definitely don't think we should go to who necessarily the highest bidder is. If somebody came with $1 million to put a casino in, or somebody came with $100,000 for an Airbnb, I'm still gonna lean towards the Airbnb. I mean,
Well,
When was the final date in our RFP?
It's out there a long ways.
August something.
it's August, but I don't remember the date.
I don't remember.
Sure, it's not on.
I mean,
My initial thought is if there's a group wanting to take on the museum, but they need to have the house to have a income stream to help pay for the house or the museum, and if we can walk away from it, not that we want to walk away from it, but if we can have somebody else take it on,
no,
I don't know.
I agree.
Because you're not going to get anybody through the RFP process that's going to take on the 1904 house and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to help you with the museum.
well, no, not necessarily, but here's the way. When I've gamed it out, the way I look at it is, if somebody came forward and they were willing to pay $100,000 and they were gonna run a restaurant, or we'll say a Airbnb, whatever, out of that house, that was going to follow all the historic preservation rules and guidelines, and that $100,000 could be gifted, that's a lot of years of income of rent that would not need to be dealt with. I also think that if somebody's willing to come in and put, another $250,000 into that house, or $100,000, or whatever it would take to make it into their vision of a restaurant, they're probably not going to do it as a rental. They'd want to own it. And I just want to know if those people are out there. That's to me the purpose of the RFP, is to see if that is something that someone's interested in doing and what that looks like. But you might be right. I completely agree. But I think we're in a place, and if we hadn't already started the process, then okay, different conversation. But I think we're at the point where there are interested parties. There's a lot of scuttlebutt. I think we need to see it played out. Now, whether we dial back the timeline of the RFP, maybe it's a different question.
So your idea would be that if somebody came in with a restaurant proposal and a sum of money, you would give that to the museum, is that it?
That would be my thought.
The city would give it to the museum?
That it would stay completely in that. I've maintained the whole time, any monies that come out of that block need to stay in that block. I personally don't think, that was the intent of the family too, as I understand it, is they wanted it to be self-sufficient. They wanted these gifts to help feed the house and the museum and keep it vital. So yeah, I would definitely say any monies that would come should stay there.
So do you have a floor in terms of what would be acceptable?
No, I think that's subject for discussion, but
Okay.
based on the RFPs. Maybe nothing. It's completely possible that we get no acceptable RFPs.
Could I just speak that, personally, I agree with you. I really think that we would like to be able to apply for this grant, but there will be other grants and other things that will happen. And I think, I know this community pretty well, and I don't want people to feel that this is an under-the-table kind of deal, or, that's just my opinion.
Well, and I appreciate that, Sharon, because I think everyone here, we want to be really transparent and very careful and measured. And I mean, it's one of those, yeah, I want to get things going, but I want to make sure we're examining all options, we're doing it thoughtfully. I think
Oh, agreed,
a lot of
agreed.
poor decisions are made in haste.
I don't think there's any dissension there at all.
Yeah.
But our concern is we don't want to be shut out. And so it's one thing to hear, yeah, this sum of money, you know, would sell it. And then we would maybe give the money to the museum, and that would maybe last them for a while. And all we're asking for is the opportunity to execute a plan so that the future of the museum is more stable.
Well, and I'll commit to you now that I think you should be involved, the Museum Foundation and the family should be involved in the permanent decisions before they are inked when it comes to the block, because obviously you're caretakers of it, and the family still cares deeply and are invested in it in multiple ways. So I definitely want the foundation to be part of the conversation moving forward into the decisions. And I would say, you know, unless it was something that was super outlandish, I couldn't imagine us not deferring to your opinion on a lot of matters.
I'm wondering if we can come up with a legal arrangement that would satisfy those concerns. Because I agree with Sharon, you know, we don't want to do anything under the table. Nobody does. This is a small town. We all know one another, and nobody's trying to do anything.
Everybody knows.
Here. But anyway, it's this grant is a real possibility for us because it has to be given to a registered home. We have that. It has to go to a town that's under 30,000. That's us. It's a historic property in the center of town. We have a really good shot at getting this grant. It would be your $100,000 figure if we could get it. And so if it's a technicality that we have to wait till the end of August to actually own the property, or whatever timeline you're comfortable with, then please let us apply for it. Give us a shot.
Can't you apply for it and use it on the current house?
No.
You can't.
No, it doesn't apply to the museum. See, the museum is a museum.
We don't need it for the museum, we need.
Well, there's still upgrades that need to be done to the museum,
Oh,
Sharon.
yes.
We all know that.
Sure,
but-
sure. No, no. This is
But
a
you can't
separate
let
deal.
the other house sit there and rot,
Right,
which is
sure.
what has happened in the past.
So have we got any information or gotten anything back on the RFPs?
Have we received?
So, to answer an earlier question, the RFP is supposed to be submitted by 4 p.m. August 26th. And, you know, those will be submitted to City Hall. Currently, we have not had any submissions. So, you know, the foundation could be the first submission if you guys choose not to go forward tonight.
So yeah, basically it's the council's decision. We can make a lot of moves from here, including shutting down the process and going with this as a submission, to shortening the time period and getting that information out. When would you need that commitment by? What is your drop dead date for the purposes of the grant? How soon would it happen?
We have to
July 1st.
submit July 1st.
July 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was
And
it.
it can be done. It's one of those things where they contacted us because this was in the wind, so.
My only reservation to this goes to the mayor's point. You know, city government already has a bad light with anybody, you know, and if we already have a process in the works, and we back out of it, or shorten it, you know, what says we do an RFP in the future, and that's not gonna get any interest, because they're gonna think, these guys, if something different comes along, they're just gonna change their mind, or, you know. I think it's, everybody on this council has had the opinion that the museum is important in this whole process. The Kester block is important in this whole process, and I think we're all doing our due diligence to try and, you know, show that and make that, you know, concrete. I Honestly, I don't know what to do.
The other side of the coin of this is, what if we don't receive anything? And then this is a squandered opportunity for this group, you know, that's a concern of mine as well, you know. Not to say that we won't, but.
Right.
Normally
That's
they
not,
come till the end.
yeah, they usually do seem to trickle in at the end, but
Yeah,
they,
I
I mean,
know.
you're not wrong. I mean, that's
It's a
the
concern.
risk and reward.
Yeah, yes.
I will say that as long as I've been around in city government, I don't think we've ever shortened the period on going out for bids or RFPs for any project before.
Not that I remember
Do
either.
you remember? I was gonna say, I don't know that we've ever discussed it before. Yeah, and it's not an easy decision, regardless.
I wonder if there isn't a way to take that into account, you know, so that it's public notice that we will be consulted with the RFPs, that we will have a share in deciding who gets it.
I would say, I think everyone's on board with being part of the discussion on it, but it's the commitment to transfer ownership that's the difficult part, because that changes the dynamics of the RFP and what discussions can have, because, I mean, we've sort of left it open for lease or purchase or otherwise, and that pretty much solidifies it as being only a lease, and then we are, in some aspects, negotiating for a property that we're also spinning off to a different landlord. I think that can get a little bit hairy, but I don't know, I don't do real estate negotiating, so I don't know how difficult that would be.
Would you be willing to discuss it with our attorney? If there's a way to do it so that it's, you know, we want to avoid the under the table look, that's for darn sure. And we want to be sure that we have the best use of the property. But with our strong interest in getting benefit from the transfer of the property, I don't know how to do that other than transferring title. And if we delay the transfer of title pending the, you know, the receipt of the proffers, you know, in other words, if we go to the August 26th deadline and with your still owning the property, but knowing that the new owner would honor the person who was chosen by the city, I don't see how that would be too tough to do.
I think if we had another meeting before this decision being made, we'd have time for the attorneys to consult and we could hash it out, but we're a little bit under the gun as far as making that otherwise decision now. I do think that, yeah, that's probably something that could be worked out between legal counsels, but as far as...
Could the grant be written like, I don't know what the grants entails, so like, I don't know what the details of the grant are to know, like, could the city apply for it and then give it to you guys?
What are the limits of who
Yes.
can apply for the grant? Does it have to be like a 501c3 or C4 that applies for the grant, or?
It's a rural Kansas grant, so I believe the city could apply.
I think the city could,
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
So how about
the
we
owner of
just
the
put our
property,
name on it?
yeah,
usually.
yeah.
so could the,
But if you applied for that at the same time you were putting out a proffer, then I think we're under
Yeah.
the table.
okay.
Yeah.
Because then
I
you're
was just
being
thinking, like,
disingenuous
maybe.
about that.
Right.
Well, yeah,
You know,
and I mean, obviously, the nuance of the fact that we haven't made any decisions yet is lost in that, because it
Well,
looks like we're trying
and then
to.
that business of the 100,000, because our concern was we didn't want to get in a bidding war with a third party from Omaha that we were, you know, having to compete against so that we could have this house, because we looked at it as a survival move for us.
Sure.
And so we really, really want it, and the family really wants us to have it. So that's, and there are major benefactors, so there's no secret there. So anyway, if there's a way that we can work it out so that everybody's happy with the way they've been treated by the city and the museum, then that's what we should try for, I think.
You know, we can reel back the RFP, but as far as if the council wants to, can we amend and reissue the RFP as far as if we did commit to transfer of ownership to the Museum Foundation.
We wouldn't write the RFP, they would.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be ours to write.
Well, but it's still our property, even if we.
Not if you give it to them.
But we haven't given it to them yet. It's still ours until deed transfer. I'm just saying.
Well, and in the proposal that we have, it's, we give you a plan by your cutoff date of April 2025 that you bless and say, okay, you get it for sure. And so that you have some wiggle room in there as well. Because if we can't raise any money and, you know, we can't do anything with it, then you have to, you know, put it out for bid or do whatever. But
I don't know, what's the council's wishes? In my perfect world, I think I would have this be one of the choices we have at the end of the RFP session, but that's not the ask in front of us, so I'll defer to what the council's wishes are on this.
I agree with you. It would be, I would put it in line with any other RFPs we got and choose from them. But even at the meeting, I thought the July 1st was gonna be a little too hard to meet.
It's a little aggressive.
Yeah.
We did that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I wonder if we went ahead and applied for the grant when we knew we were going to be in the running for getting the property. If we could do it that way. And so we'll just take you at your word that you'll treat us seriously and put us against other bids that come in between now
Do you know
and
when
August 26th.
the grant was gonna be decided?
It won't be decided till the fall. Yeah.
Because if they don't get it, I mean, they can always turn the grant money back if they do get it, receive it, so.
I think that would be a
that's
good
probably the best option.
tactic, a good plan, and I would say, yes, we will definitely consider you as highly as anyone.
I was really heartened by your discussion of the locomotive. That was one of my father's good ideas, to put that there in the park. And the other one he had was the squirrels, the black squirrels, of course. And then Dargett Park was also his when he was on the council. So I felt like I was feeling my father's vibes here tonight. But the Kester House, now that was my mother. She worked at the bank, the Exchange Bank of Schmidt and Kester. And so she was a staunch supporter of the Kester House. So anyway, I think that's a good solution. If we go ahead and proceed as if we're going to be honored in our bid, and that way it sets if we get the grant, then, you know we are dealing with $100,000 investment in the house. But I would just like to urge you to acknowledge the tremendous amount of work that this lady and a whole lot of other people have put into keeping the Kester House going and raising several $100,000 for improvements and keeping that house going. So anyway, we want to do it more. We want to do it again in a business-like way. So.
Well, thank you very much, and
Thanks,
yes,
ladies.
thank you,
Thank you
Sharon,
for your
and
consideration.
all your crew, very much.
There be any consideration moving the deadline up?
Well, I mean, if proceeding as they mentioned, I don't know that we need to. It feels like it's, we can kind of leave it alone for the time being, I think. Okay, moving on to ordinance 1927, the ethics code.
Move to approve ordinance 1927.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh, roll call. As soon as you said something, I knew.
Snelling,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Behrens,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Bikeman,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Rom,
Yes.
Garacki.
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have cut above rent.
So this is for the space in the Kester commercial buildings. in which Pam Wecker and her business Broadway's a Cut Above, was operating and is operating until the end of the month. Currently, the rental rate is $325 per month. So it's only in business and discussion, just in case council decided they wanted to raise rent. If they felt like it was fine there, then we don't need to take any action. We'll just advertise at the current rate.
Do we need to do any remodeling work or anything to the property, or is it pretty much good to go as is?
I don't know. I mean, it's been a beauty shop for
That's
at
what I
least
mean.
35 years, so it depends on, that's usually negotiated with whoever wants to rent it.
Okay.
If we would need to do something, because I don't know what they want to use it for.
My initial thought would be, if we don't have to do much, then there's not much impetus for us to do any significant increases, but if there's work that needs done and we have to do some gutting and remodeling, we're gonna incur some costs that probably should be offset.
Well, and here, the sizing you're saying is, the pricing is quite a bit different than other buildings that size?
So the business is right next to it, to the east side. Main Dish and then South Hill Pottery are half the size of where a Cut Above was. They're $200 per month each. But then right next to it, H&R Block and My Sister's Closet / Simple Pleasures.
Yeah.
Those are $400 each. They're a little bit bigger than this 325 space.
Well, I know at one point before we started down the road with Tyler, we had entertained raising all of them. So if this goes through with Tyler, at what point are we going to quit receiving the rent?
Once the sale is official.
Yeah, once the lease is signed.
And then at that point, who's going to have to pay the insurance and the taxes?
He would.
He would.
Prorated to that date, I presume.
Well, right, okay.
How long are you saying that would be? A year, 2 years?
It depends on his timeline. It'd be about a year and a half to a
little
year.
while.
To 2 years, we'll still have to pay those bills?
So my thoughts were, should we continue down the path to raise them to where they should be for that little while? Because if not, how are we going to pay those taxes and insurance?
When was it set at 325? How long has it been at that rate? Do we know?
I did not get that
It went up
history.
$25
2
2
years
years ago. Before that, it was $300 for the last 12 years.
That's significantly below market rate, and there's not a lot of available real estate in town.
My
For
only
commercial.
reservation with raising is we don't want to deter potential businesses from coming to town, because we may not get a lot from rent, but sales tax and everything else counts for something too.
To piggyback off of that, I think if you were to raise all of the rents, then we might have businesses come forward and say, you really need to fix this right now, you know?
Sure.
Rather than,
Well, and that's what I mean, circling all the way back to where I was like, if we have to do a lot of work on it,
Yeah.
then we can definitely rationalize maybe some increases, whereas if it's, set as it is, as a beauty shop.
Wait and see is what you're.
So I say 375?
I don't think a marginal increase is inappropriate. At $25 2 years ago.
I mean, that's $50.
Is like $10 now or something. I mean, inflation is crazy, so.
How
We just
many
have to
of
know what
the
to ask.
business contracts do we have where they're responsible for their own maintenance? Do we
All
have
of them.
anything like that?
All of them.
All of them are responsible?
Well, not
their
for
own-
everything.
Yeah.
yeah, for like interior stuff,
Not the
basically,
doors.
is what they're responsible for. And then,
Lighting,
yeah, I think so.
Doors, doorknobs, what else?
And then, of course, air conditioning is all us, roof, all the exterior type appliances and.
so any improvements done to the building are on them as well, and then we raise their rent.
And in the past.
Not necessarily, because you replaced an AC unit, and there went your profit that you made for 4 years off of that rent of that one building. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we see, when we were going through the Kester House block finances, that's where we were seeing a lot of the issues. Was there wasn't a lot of maintenance, but when something came up, it was
big stuff.
huge stuff that stick all the
Everybody
rent
pay
that you've
for it.
had for X amount of years in one shot.
So in some situations in the past, the councils have decided to forego rent for the business to complete the remodeling or whatever that might be.
Basically, you just at this point would like to some direction whether we're going to hold the course or make some changes.
Well, I'm just gonna make a motion that we do not change it.
Keep it at the current rate.
Yes, at the
And just to be clear, this was just for this one business, not, or one business space, not all the block.
The one that's open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are we at market-wise for our rent, though? Are we
That's
completely below par?
Significantly low.
We're way too low.
Significantly low.
If,
One of the buildings is paying 11 cents per square foot.
Wish we had all those numbers.
if the contractor buys this,
Do you have that in your folder?
for rent, right, I would assume?
That is his prerogative. You know, he could make a whole lot off of the apartments above and decide not to do much,
And
or
I
he
think
could.
some of in his paperwork, he was saying he was trying to.
I did
do that
too.
as close as
Yeah, it
possible.
didn't sound like he was, I mean, I think that was part of the appeal to some of the longer term tenants is that there would be enough stability there that, you know, basically the costs of those second floor rental units would offset a lot of what otherwise would have to be required for commercial rent increases. But, I mean,
If
my
we
opinion,
raise it $25 a month, we're gonna make $600 in 2 years. I mean,
That's why I said $50 a month.
yeah, I mean.
I don't feel like $375 is outrageous for a retail business in downtown. That's my personal opinion.
and it's fluid. I mean, there've been times as long as I've lived here where it felt like there was lots of vacant property downtown, and then when there's none. And right now, it's closer to that. There's just not a lot of spaces.
Well, that's a good thing.
And the time, well, it is a good thing. And, you know, the time to change it is between tenants. It's a lot harder for somebody to swallow it when they've already had their business running and that they have their, you know, budgets built, whereas somebody who's gonna come into it, they'll just plan around 25 or 50. That's the argument, but. We have a motion on the
Yeah, so we have a motion on the
No
floor, and I'll
second.
second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we do not change the rent. Is there further discussion?
I just wanna say, I agree with you, Lori, that something needs to happen. My only thing with that is the process that we're in, it might not change a whole lot. So that's $1,200 in 2 years that we would make on the rent. Is that gonna help with any significant things, you know, so?
No, but it'll help more than the $1,200 we didn't have
Sure,
before
no,
that.
no, I agree with that.
I just worry,
Taxes and insurance.
Yeah.
yes, I just worry that
God, I wish we had those numbers.
with this
It's outrageous.
It is.
and the process we're in, we still have to maintain that block, pay the taxes and insurance, and we were short this year to do that. It's not gonna get any better in the next 2 years.
Would you rather have this go to the admin finance committee first before we vote on it? If you do, then I'll retract the motion.
The Admin and Finance Committee worked on this extensively.
Extensively, and
Before.
375 is
And
nothing
then
compared to
And
what
so
I
your
would like to see.
recommendation from the
And-
admin and finance would be to raise it.
We had that extensive.
Meetings
had
and
the-
meetings and meetings.
Yeah, meetings and meetings about it, and we were gonna raise them all. And then we decided to do this RFP, so we decided to leave them until decided what that was gonna do. But because, my feelings are because we're in the process, but it could be 1.5 to 2 years before we actually turn it over to Tyler, depending on the time, what happens. Where are we gonna come with, any repairs that need to be done now?
How short were we on the insurance, like 16 grand or something?
18,000 in insurance and 9 on taxes.
I don't think $50 is too much to ask for a month, honestly.
I just retract your.
I wanna move in.
Motion stands.
Your motion stands? Okay, well, we're gonna take it to a vote. It's been moved and seconded that we leave rent alone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails.
I'll make a motion.
Is it, it was
Um,
two.
Jeff and Keith voted yes, and the rest voted no.
To raise it to 375.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to raise it to 375. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
7-1, motion carries. Good to go? Okay. Next, we have the Nordis Storm Sewer Financing.
Okay, so, as advised by the council last meeting, I went out and discussed the financing with a couple different groups. I did not receive, information back from, or even responses back from some of them. But one option in front of you is a 20-year bond from the Ranson Financial Group. The city has previously worked, with them in the past. Included in the packet is a, example debt service schedule. And in this, the interest rate ranged from about 4% to 4.65 throughout the lifetime of the bond. As a reminder, since this is a bond, it would need to be going to vote in the public, if council would like to go forward with that option. And then it would be up to vote at the general election, not at the, earlier reaction.
In November?
Yep.
Okay.
And then there is another addendum bond option.
What is the cost associated with putting it to a vote? I don't think it's super nominal in relation to this, but there is a cost associated.
It was $1,500. It's not a lot.
It's not a
It's
lot.
in a regular, if you have to pay for it, the whole thing, then it's a lot more.
Yeah,
Okay,
if
it's
we had to do a
standalone
special election. yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Um,
But because we're already in an election year, this would, I mean, I guess it wouldn't necessarily delay the process. How far would this delay our process as far as going out to bid and getting things aligned?
Okay, so the timeline on the process for completing construction would take about a full year in order to get it completed. I don't have the timeline with me right now, but I believe, Rob would be willing to keep on moving forward, with the understanding that it would, or financing would be found. However, if it were voted no on, then we'd have to look at other solutions.
Alternative financing stream?
Yes.
Funding stream, yeah.
Was there anybody, any of the banks in town interested?
That was 15. If you guys would like, I can also discuss
Yeah, let's
the
go ahead and
addendum.
discuss that now.
Sorry.
So like I said, this was a bond over 20 years, with the total payment to be about $2 million over the lifetime of the bond. Let me find. The option 2 right now, would be with the local banks, all three, United, First Commerce, and Citizen State. They put together, a 10-year lease purchase option, similar to how the fire stations are right now. Well, those are 7 years, this would be 10 years, so that way, we could make less payments over the time frame. The interest rate would be 5.5, tax exempt, and then semi-annual payments of $89,190, so that would be twice per year. And then it would last until February 2035, I believe. In my opinion, 5.5 is pretty high. If we could get it lower, that would be what we would want to do.
You said how long's the process for the bond and everything?
For the bond, it would have to go for vote. For this option, it would not. So, in order to secure the bond after, we would need to vote on it in November, and then it would have to go out for bid and all that, through Ranson.
Can they go shorter on the bond,
Yeah, we could look at other options.
like a 15 or?
Yeah, I could look into that. If you guys want me to explore both options some more and maybe get information together,
And they won't go any less on interest at the
Local banks?
local banks?
I mean, that's something that I can definitely discuss. Is there an interest rate you guys would like me to push for?
4.5?
4.5?
Well,
The least amount you can
I think the
get.
Fed's gonna cut
Yeah.
eventually. We're
So-
probably at the peak right now.
Actually, right now, interest rates are going down right now. And so this is still on that higher level, so I believe that, we might be able to get it closer to 5,
My only reservation with the bond is this is time sensitive. How long are we gonna wait to get something done? That's.
If council would like to wait until the next council meeting, or if we wanted to call a special meeting next week, that would give us more time, and plenty of time if you wanted to go out to the election for the bond, or if you wanted me to go back and talk to the banks again.
So, at this point, do we have the actual engineering done?
Working on it.
They're working on it, yep.
Okay. So, do we have a projected time frame for it to be done?
I would have to grab that off of my desk.
I mean, is it gonna be done next week? It's gonna be done next
I
month?
believe it would be about a month or
Okay.
a little bit longer than that.
Well, that put this to August.
So we got a month
Yeah.
anyway.
So,
In whichever way we went on this, if we do get a stormwater utility created, that could be the funding mechanism for
It
either.
could.
To pay
One
the
thing,
loan or pay the
if we were to
bond.
do a 10-year lease, I would suggest adding a yearly, or something onto the bills. Right now, I think sewer minimum is at
23.75.
23. So say we added $10 onto the minimum, it can be a lot for some people to swallow, but adding $10 for 1,500 houses, that can really make headway into our payments each year. And if you put a limit on how long that would be, say like a 10-year or permanent, so that way we keep building up that reserve after this, that would be something I would want to look at.
And that's something we've well discussed and identified as an ongoing need, because this may be the current stormwater utility issue, but it is not going to be the last. So
The rate hasn't increased in 10 years.
having a dedicated continuous funding mechanism specifically for stormwater utility makes it really clear and transparent. And I personally, as a taxpayer, appreciate that transparency, so.
I think the banks would be happy if we were to move forward in some way like that.
Yeah.
So that way it secures a certain type, certain funding, and guarantees
Rather
the
than
payment.
sales tax or otherwise, yeah.
You obviously wouldn't be able to make that decision tonight. You would need to make it at a separate council meeting though.
I'd say go back to the bank, see what we can hash out, and, we gotta wait for engineering anyway, so I guess waiting until next meeting isn't gonna be.
see about maybe a shorter time frame with the bonds.
Yeah.
Okay. We're looking at 10,
years.
15, and then of course the 20? Okay.
I go 10 and 15
Yeah.
years and see
Okay.
what the difference is.
And then we meet in 2 weeks, so that should be ample time unless anyone thinks we need to have a special meeting. I think
Know
that
what
should
comes
be
up.
sufficient, yeah.
I will talk with Rob also to see if he's okay with that timeline.
Good,
Thanks for doing that.
yes, thank you. All right, next up, we have line item 13, Frontier Development Group negotiations on the commercial buildings in the Kester block.
Sorry, trying to find paper.
37.
What number did you say?
37.
Page 37, yeah. Yeah, because we jumped forward,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's messed it up.
Okay, so on June 13th, council members Behrens and Keating and I met with Tyler Holman, and who's a representative for FTG. Aaron was there, Karen Hughes, Corey Smith were all there, and we wanted to further discuss the sale or lease option for the commercial buildings with FTG. Based on the directions from council, we set out to create proposals for both lease and sale. During these discussions, we actually came to a kind of mixed agreement in which a 100-year lease was proposed with the option for FDG to buy the properties after the 39.5 years. Under the terms, FDG would be paying $1,000 per year on the lease plus the initial $10,000 that they had discussed previously. The lease would be evaluated every 5 years to establish the new terms, and then the sale price at the end of 39.5 years would equal the dollar equivalent to today's $10,000 or the initial $10,000. So one thing I put in here was $10,000 in 1980 would equal roughly $38,000 today. So they would just need to pay, equal to that 38, which they probably would have with that 1,000 per year in addition. So yeah, at that time, we would evaluate what the value of the 2024 dollar would be in 2064. So in addition to move forward with the agreement at Frontier Development Group, we'd like the council to establish a reinvestment housing incentive district around the Castor Walk commercial buildings. The council would be able to discuss which areas should be included in the districts and the terms of the distributions from the RHID. So council could decide to expand it beyond just the commercial buildings to include more of downtown to try to invigorate the upper floor housing, or could decide just to keep it on the commercial and maybe create a separate one if that's something they would like to look at for the future.
What would be the downside of expanding the RHID to include the entire downtown district?
There's certain requirements with the RHID that need to be completed at the outset of it for the need of housing, and then also the businesses and the owners of those buildings would have to agree to be a part of it from the get-go, otherwise.
Is it like a simple majority, or does every single one have to agree?
It's just whoever opts into it would receive those fundings. And in case you don't know what an RHID is, it's a different type of tax increment financing, wherein the base of the tax dollars from the beginning of when everything begins, let's say 10,000 would stay what they would pay throughout the lifetime of it, unless something separate was agreed upon by the parties. And then it would go for the lifetime of the RHID. And his idea for the lifetime of it would be 25 years, which is the maximum time period for it.
So how hard is it to establish the RHID?
It is not too difficult. I believe it needs a public hearing. And I guess I didn't fully explain the tax increment financing. So it has the base. They would receive back from the city all that was paid above that base. Does that make sense?
On the upper level?
Yep, on the upper level.
Yeah.
Of the improvement.
So say it's worth $100,000. He puts in 2.4 million in it, so now it's worth 2.4. So whatever above the 100,000 that he's paying in property taxes would come to us, but then we would pay it directly back to him. But we would still get that base.
What are the benefits to the city?
It helps helps him fund
Financing for him.
his side of it. 25 years is a long time, because
it is a long time.
You think about that money compounding over that period that we're handing back. It's a lot.
Well, $2.4 million is a lot of money too.
No, I know, but $2.4 million now is a lot more in 25 years.
So one thing to think about is, would the building be increasing value if he wasn't going to put in the 2.4 million?
Correct.
So we're not
We're
not financing him necessarily, because.
And we're not losing anything, we're getting what we already have.
And then once that 25 years has ended, then we would be receiving the property tax value on it.
And I mean, truth be told, if more people are living in the town, then we're going to see other benefits. So, and they're living downtown, and that's why I understand it's a bigger process, and maybe it should be a separate one. But I think having the entire downtown district in some way incentivized is a good idea.
I think you could always expand.
That's what I think. I say we start with the Kester block and then expand out.
Just fine, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Talk to each block and,
Yeah.
expand it as we need to.
so what I would like to discuss and maybe have a decision on is the council okay with moving forward with this lease to possibly purchase option? And then if you do decide on that, can we move forward with writing a letter of intent so that he would be able to move forward with some of his grant options?
You okay with the $10,000?
I don't love it.
I know you were pretty hesitant on that.
I don't love the $1,000 a year. It sounds super nominal. I mean,
It really does.
back to that point of what's X many dollars in 1980 is how much now? Because $1,000 a year in X many years is even less than it is now. It's gonna be like a meal at McDonald's and,
We would be
30
discussing that every 5 years.
wow, so it's.
I don't know how much that would change every
I
5 years.
suspect not a lot, but.
Is there a limit to how much it can change in 5 years?
That's up to our negotiations as we go.
I think we ought to move forward with the letter of intent.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna, if we don't get moving, he's gonna back off.
Right.
Oh, no, I agree. I think we need to strike while the iron's hot, as they say.
Keep changing things on
agreed.
him, we'll lose
I think
him.
the benefit that we're gonna find is having people downtown
Yeah.
and
And again, and this is a proof of concept, there's plenty of other business owners and people watching to see how this goes.
Right,
So,
yep.
there are. And he's more than willing to, he's gonna be very open with this process,
Yeah.
to let other people learn what he's doing.
Not only that, he also has interest in other parts. So it could
Okay, so-
open up a lot more doors for.
City.
To be clear, we'll need a decision on the first part first and then on the letter of intent afterward.
On the first part, on the lease purchase?
Yes.
I make a motion, we accept the lease purchase and do that option.
As lined out,
Right.
Second.
Second.
okay? So it's been moved and seconded to move forward with the lease agreement. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now on the RHID.
Make a motion to proceed with the RH.
We need to discuss the RHID
Okay.
with him further, but the letter of
The
intent.
letter of intent for the RHID. I
No,
should,
letter of intent just for the intent to sell or lease the buildings to them.
okay.
Yes.
He needs that for something other than the.
For his grant
Right, for the
opportunities.
grant.
Yes.
Okay, so the letter of intent, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion, we write a letter of intent to enter into this agreement with Frontier Development Group.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Last up, under business and discussion, we have resolution 2024-06 on the 904 May condemnation.
Move to approve resolution 2024-06 on
Second.
904 May Street.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
This is setting the hearing. Yep.
Yeah, it's getting the process started. And the neighbors will be happy. Something's
Yes, they
happening.
will.
Neighborhood will be happy.
Yeah. Okay, next we do, I lied, there's one more, I forgot we added.
Yep.
Repair or replace lift station number 4. We have the quote from Agland Electric Motor Service. And Josh, I don't know if you want to speak to this?
So recently, we found out that the pump number 4 was not working correctly. So Kent was able to get this repair quote for lift station 4. It's for a total of $6,913.50. That is just for repair. It is not a guarantee that we will be able to repair it. So also included in this is the option for if we need to replace the pump. And that would be $23,842.50 plus the freight.
So if we go ahead with the repair and it doesn't work, we have to spend an additional 23,000?
That is not what that's not my understanding of it. It would be, we
They
would have
could
to-
probably tell us before they repair it, when they get it, they can see if they can repair it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a little scary.
That's how it's
always been in
usually
the past
been.
anyway.
When you said not guaranteed, yeah, that, well.
Yeah.
It's always been that in the past when we've worked with them.
What was that?
It's always been that in the past when we've worked with them. They say, they get it there and say, oh, it's damaged worse than what we thought, we can't repair it.
Non-repairable. Chris?
Is this a new, is this one that has been worked on previously, or is this a? No.
So, I do not know the history of the pump.
Okay, well, I'll
so-
make a motion to get lift station number 4 fixed.
Yeah.
We did have another pump to put in there that we had on the shelf,
Backup.
so at least it is working.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I think a
We,
couple years ago, we
Yes.
said, let's buy a new one and then get the one repaired.
That's
Keep it on the
it.
shelf for this exact
Yeah.
reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so wait, it's working now?
Yeah.
Or
So we're
backup.
just-
So
A
pretty much
backup
we need a
one.
Replacing the
backup.
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 Okay, so then I'll make a motion to buy a backup,
Replace it if we can.
whatever lift pump, whatever.
Second.
either,
Replacement pump.
yeah,
We have one
either
on the shelf again.
fix it,
Fix
Or buy
it
a
or
new
buy a
one.
new one.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, 8-0.
All right, I see no notices or hearings this evening, so we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
8-0.
Thank you. Next, we have appropriations ordinance 3825.
Move to approve appropriation ordinance 3825 in the amount of $557,658.08.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call?
Snellings,
Yes.
Paris,
yes.
Barron's,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Bikeman,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Thrum,
Yes.
Gracky.
Yes.
8-0.
Okay, thank you. So we have the city administrator report.
Okay, we already had a reminder earlier tonight about fireworks and when they can be shot off and bought. That is from June 27th to July 5th. And so daily, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on those dates, with the exception now of June 28th, June 29th, and July 5th, where they will be shot off from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then on the 4th of July, the hours are 10 a.m. to midnight. Also, the city just received a dividend from EMC, or from Alliance for EMC, of $14,314.58. So the city is being very safe, and we're getting some money back, which is awesome. Next, I know people were talking about the Verizon Tower and when it's going to get started. They have a pending start date of July 15th for construction. They did have to ask for an extension on their permit, but they have a pending start date of July 15th. So we're making movement forward right now.
When will it be operational?
That's a good question.
Sometime after the 15th.
Hey, Colleen, they don't take long, once they get going.
The one in Hanover, they told them it would be 3 years because they couldn't get the parts.
Wow, Hanover?
Yeah.
Maybe for 5G, I don't know. They're pretty quick. The two I did are already up.
Okay, so there's a couple events in the city that need volunteers, if anybody is interested. I'm talking to all y'all. National Night Out on August 6th. I know the police chief would love to have council members volunteer or other people in the public, so reach out to him. And then also with Skyfest, I know that Wayne is currently looking for volunteers. And then finally, we need to schedule budget workshops. I was hoping for 2 separate ones. One just for initial go over it and then comments back, and then the second one to try to finalize it before it's due. It is due to the county on the 20th?
22nd, it's Monday.
22nd of July. So I would like it if on July 1st, after the committee meeting with Convention and Tourism, if we could meet for however long it takes to go over the budget. I will try to have it to you on this Friday.
A week from today.
A week from today. And then, yeah.
On next week.
July 1st.
Works for me.
July 1st.
At
The meeting's at 5:15, so 6 o'clock.
6:30?
We'll say 6 o'clock, because I think they should be done
Fast can
pretty
we be
quickly.
with convention?
I mean, if we have another meeting at 6, we can probably make it fast.
Yeah, or else
So-
just 6:15, cut it in the middle.
Okay.
6:15? Okay.
And then also on July 15th, which is also a Monday. And that, you know, it'd be nice if we could do it as early as we can in the afternoon, in the evening, so.
That's Monday again?
You're
That
taking
looks
up all
Monday.
my free days, Josh.
So if 5:30 works, if 5:15, if, you know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon works, that works for me.
Sorry. And me.
Wednesday, Thursday, I can do that.
So,
5:30.
5:30?
30? Okay, Kyle, no?
No.
I will be here on that one,
Okay,
so.
and on July 1.
So
that's
get me all of
Taco
your
Bell.
notes ahead of it,
So the
so.
15th was the second one?
Yeah.
Yep,
15th at 5:30.
Are you gonna send out emails?
Mhm.
First at 6 o'clock.
yep, and we'll just meet in here.
5:15.
As long as it's
5:15 is our
available.
first meeting, 6:15 is the budget.
Correct.
That is all I had.
Okay. You, standing committee reports. I know, we've already talked a little bit about the police and fire committee, but if anybody in there wants to recap that, what all was discussed, if there was anything that we haven't discussed at that meeting, if it was pretty much traffic control and tasers and.
I think Chris enjoyed the tasers.
Yeah, I don't
You had to
mind.
tase Chris?
I don't mind shooting them, that's fun.
No, Chris got to tase.
Oh.
Chris and Chris.
Yeah, both Chris.
She shot the old school one, and I got to shoot the new bad boy.
Any notes on the new one?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, so the old one, when you shoot it, it fires 2 darts out, and that's it. If the first one hits and the second one misses, they gotta take time to reload a new cartridge or get really close and use the, you know, right on them, what is it?
Other less lethal forces?
I'm having trouble finding the word, but the new one has 10 darts, and you can aim each of them separately.
And you can,
So,
45 feet?
40, the old one was 22 or 25 foot, the new one is 45 feet away. So it's a lot safer for the police, everybody.
And you can turn it on and off as you move close to them, so restart it.
Yeah, I mean, the old one you could.
Yeah,
if you were-
yeah,
if you
but
could-
with 45 feet, you know, that
Yeah,
becomes a lot more important.
But it was pretty neat to be, you know, to have that ability. Plus, you know, with the 10-year contract, all the paperwork we saw, they come out with a new one every 5 years. So we're guaranteed the new taser after 5 years, pretty much. So it was just a smarter route. But yeah, I think it'll be a lot better for everyone. Less maintenance costs for the department, less tax dollars spent on everything. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Great.
I got tased once.
You did?
2004, south side of Baghdad. We were bored that night.
So you were tasing each other?
Yeah, you had to place bets. I can tell you that.
Oh, dude.
Why?
I wouldn't even do it with the outfit on they say that they can practice with. No way. I'm
It
out.
doesn't feel good. I had to have it done in training.
I don't believe there were any other standing committee reports, correct me if I'm wrong.
Admin and finance met with convention and
That's
tourism.
right, joint meeting. Want to recap that?
The
Any
Chamber Main
comments?
Street.
About
They're working on merging it all into one entity, which I think is a fantastic idea. 'Cause they all have the same goals, the same mission, and they're just gonna try to merge it into one group.
So their ideas with this is that, so currently Chamber and Main Street are actually 2 separate groups under one name.
Umbrella.
So that way they can have different tax benefits. They're basically wanting to do the same thing with convention and tourism, just adding it in there. And then with those transient gas dollars, they would then bid for a contract every year for those. That's their idea for it.
So who holds the transient guest tax dollars? Us?
The city would.
The city.
Yep. I believe it's the idea that we would keep the Convention and Tourism Committee kind of in name only, like they might meet once a year to get the contract re-up again, but it wouldn't be who's involved in the other group.
And the contract would work sort of like convention and tourism or MCACs with the Art Center. It's a
Right.
lump sum.
It's
money.
very similar to the rec.
Okay. You get
Yeah.
X amount to run the year.
To run the year, that's the money you get. So
And if we're out of
so they
money,
don't come here
then,
to ask for money.
yeah.
Simplifies a lot of things.
Yep.
It does.
So, in order to get more money, then they need to make more money
Did
for
you
the city, so.
understand as well that it would be three different tax ID numbers?
I think just two,
They would have,
wasn't it?
I think it's
no,
the-
they would, it sounded to me like they would still, they were
It'd
just
have to
kind of
be-
umbrellaing.
Well, convention and tourism wouldn't have one.
Right.
So
Right,
it would
'cause
just
they're
be the
not
two.
Just those
Yeah.
two. Yeah, because they were gonna bring it
So
in
it'd be
through
two,
chamber,
yeah.
weren't they? Yeah, that's right.
They'd have a 501(c) and a 501.
Six.
For those states.
All right, I believe that was all the standing committee reports. If Parks and Rec needs to meet, I guess, sometime to discuss, I don't know if there's any other committees planning to meet between now and the next council meeting?
The,
Admin and finance,
Is with
July
chamber.
1st.
Oh,
Man, you guys are busy.
We are.
All right, great. Next we have appointments and wage determinations, of which we have none. And we have our city attorney.
Outside of just working on finding ordinances for the trap and release program and also parking, potentially parking in the alleys, I don't have much to report on tonight.
Okay. So,
And I presented Cindy with a few different options on the trap and release this evening, and the alley portion is on my computer that crashed last week, and so I'm trying to get all the information restored on it right now.
fine.
Yeah.
Can't click on all the links you get. Come on. Okay, so you'll have more on that at the next council meeting
Absolutely.
you're at, which will be 2 meetings?
So and I'll send it, so it'll be here for the next meeting, so you guys can look at it.
Oh, perfect.
Great. Does anybody have any need for an executive session, since our attorney is here tonight? No? Okay. We'll move on to council comments. Lori?
Got nothing.
Great.
I don't have anything.
Colleen? Jeff?
Talking to the fireworks guy, it sounds like 9:15 will be the time that we start. I think 8:55, that time of year is when it gets dark, is what he came up with, so. Good 90s theme.
Early 90s or late 90s, because that's a lot.
I can tell you, I'll just tell you, so you know. We got Cotton Eye Joe,
Mid-90s.
Mid-90s, yeah.
The Sign,
Mid-90s.
Can't touch this.
Early 90s.
Over the
Whole range of the
yeah,
90s.
Whole decade.
Don't Want to Miss a Thing, and Everybody by Backstreet Boys.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Very much a 90s theme.
And then we fit in No Rain at the very end.
Oh, nice.
Of course, he had to say, "Who's Blind Melon?"
Oh, come on now. It's a good song. All right, thanks, Jeff. Anything else?
At some point, I'm gonna have to get together with chief and the fire department to come up with our plan for that evening. I don't think that's been initiated, but I'm gonna hope that Wayne can kind of drive that, because we had a pretty good plan last year. So.
He did say they worked on parking and stuff already. He
I've
sent
heard
us
that.
Yeah.
Are you gonna meet with, Swinton, Bill?
Toad? Yeah, we'll meet with Toad.
Just making sure.
Just to come up with a, kind of a contingency plan if it's super hot that day and things like that.
Did I tell you I got that power down there?
Yep, thank you.
Deal.
Got
Kim?
nothing tonight.
Chris? Cal?
No, sir.
Oh, no, I didn't have comments. I only had two things. One is, any update on 11th Road going out for bids, where that's at?
I don't remember where we're at right now. Let's see.
Last I knew.
Yeah, and we discussed a sidewalk that we're gonna have to remove on 11th Road. We're gonna try to keep the corner that goes towards the Bulldog Apartments and that stuff. But otherwise, we're going to get rid of the sidewalk that's south, and then we're going to be going with riprap in the ditch in order to try to stabilize it, which I know it has been there in the past, but the other solutions are not, first of all, not the most cost effective, but also have proven that they haven't worked the best there either.
As long as the conversations had with the neighbors there, I know they've got strong opinions. riprap and otherwise, so worth making sure they're in the loop.
Get rid of the speed bump.
Yeah, that's the plan.
The ramp. The only other thing was, I've had a couple people ask me, when do we start discussing the next Parks and Rec contract?
August 1 to September 19th.
And that's exclusive with the current contract
That's in
holders.
their contract.
That's what
It's
I was
written in their contract.
going to ask, so and I don't know, I haven't obviously talked to them, if they don't want to proceed with renegotiating, then we open it up again for bids.
Yep.
If they do want to, we can't open it up for bids, or can we still?
It says exclusively you negotiate with them first.
I mean, we would negotiate with them throughout that timeline, and if we can't come up with an agreement, then of course we would open it up, and they could bid at that time too.
My understanding is there's maybe some people who are interested in bidding on it, so that's why they wanted to know, and I thought, well, we haven't gone through this process frequently. This is the second time since I've ever been involved, so, okay. That's all I had.
Move to adjourn.
And we had a motion.
I didn't hear you.
It's been moved and seconded.
I missed
Is there?
the second.
You could second it.
Kyle.
Oh.
Yeah, I got her.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I was down there, but I won.
Adjourned.